Hora de despedirse del politólogo Chris Boric, un experto en opinión pública del Muhlenberg College en Allentown, Pensilvania, y volver a Nueva York para una charla con otro colega, el prestigioso profesor Robert Shapiro de la Universidad de Columbia. Boric brindó una detallada explicación acerca de cómo Trump forzó al Partido Republicano a un posicionamiento cercano al sentimiento de una clase trabajadora masculina y de raza blanca que desde los tiempos del New Deal estuvo asociada al Partido Demócrata, pero que hoy forma parte del núcleo duro de simpatizantes de Trump a instancias de un discurso que gravita alrededor de potentes ejes como inmigración y libre comercio. En tal sentido, Boric rescata que la estrategia de Trump no solo está vinculada al contenido del mensaje, sino a una modalidad de comunicación apuntada a sintonizar con su audiencia a través de conexiones sentimentales y mensajes muy sencillos que contrastan notoriamente con el estilo de comunicación de Hillary, más basado en hechos y evidencias, así como dirigido a un público más sofisticado.
What we've seen in the United States, particularly as we saw it during the primary elections and the caucuses, is that a large segment of voters, perhaps, well, we're not quite sure how large a segment, but a very large segment, has rejected mainstream political candidates. That is, Trump came in as a complete outsider, running against 16 other Republican candidates, and was able to win the nomination. It represented dissatisfaction among the Republican base with their mainstream party leaders. The economy has picked up, but it hasn't picked up substantially in terms of returning the nation to having a large number of good manufacturing jobs, the kinds of jobs that enable people to live as a good lifestyle in the middle class. And Trump was able to capitalize among those voters who were dissatisfied with those things. At the same time, we saw a rejection of mainstream Democratic, moderate liberal politics by the supporters, by Bernie Sanders and his supporters. While he didn't get the Democratic nomination, he did very well in the primary election, and enough so there to move the Democratic Party further to the left.
An advantage of Mr. Trump not being a part of the political system in this election in particular?
Well, it's a big advantage. But for one, he's able to take positions on issues that deviate substantially from the mainstream Republican Party. There is a nostalgia about the time, as Trump says, when America was great, when America could provide jobs that it would enable most Americans to live as members of the middle class. With today's economy, with the rise of the increasing importance of the service sector, and so forth. While there are jobs there, they're not the kinds of jobs that necessarily provide the standard of living and the benefits that people have had in manufacturing. The irony, of course, is that when manufacturing was strong, labor unions were strong. And there seems to be more nostalgia for the manufacturing than for the role of labor unions. It's conceivable that that the national vote could be very close, or she could even lose the national vote, but win the electoral college vote. But the difficulty is that Trump has to win too many states where he's going to have difficulty winning. He has to win for certain Ohio, Florida, North Carolina. He's been leading in Iowa, and he's been doing well in Nevada. But in addition to those states, he needs something else. If Trump wins, then that suggests that the Republicans would probably maintain control of the Senate. And they already have the House of Representatives. So the other big losers would be the Democrats and liberal policy making. People concerned about having a Supreme Court that's not too conservative would be losers. Barack Obama will be a loser in the sense that the Republicans will be in a position to undo some of the policies. that he's been able to enact. Further, some of the losers might be some of the Republican leaders who opposed Trump. That is, their status in the Republican Party will have to be reorganized. He certainly sees himself as owing nothing to anyone except for his voters, because he hasn't had the kind of support from the Republican Party that a normal Republican candidate would have.
The Democratic Party is very much still the party of working people. And if you look at a number of issues, whether it's minimum wage or the right to organize and bargain collectively, or paid family leave, or protection on the job, workplace health and safety, the Democratic Party has always stood with working people, and the Republican Party has been mostly on the side of big corporations. This is an unusual year, and I think Donald Trump is an unusual candidate because he's not beholden to the traditional sources of Republican money, like the Chamber of Commerce and the big corporations, since he is a wealthy individual. I think it's very clear that Donald Trump is taking advantage of people. I would call him a fake populist. He is playing on his role as an outsider, but who's more of an insider than a billionaire? You know, he's a billionaire businessman. He was born into wealth. He has run a business empire based on cheating his workers, on cheating his contractors, on declaring bankruptcy when he gets into trouble. This is not a man, you know, who has any kind of personal track record of looking out for the little guy. In his own personal business dealing, he outsources everything he touches, all of his Donald Trump ties and hats and shirts and clothing, and the furniture in his hotels, the toiletries. I mean, he really has made an art out of outsourcing. He, uses dumped Chinese steel in building his hotels. He uses non-union labor. He uses immigrant labor that he treats poorly. He exploits and he abuses his workers. Sure, I think there's no question that Mr. Trump is getting some support from some union workers and some non-union manufacturing workers. We would like to see manufacturing, good jobs, come back to the United States. So there's no secret that the labor movement has been critical of U.S. trade policy. But we also aren't critical in the sense we don't want to go backwards in time to, and we don't think it's reasonable to say we're going to not trade with the rest of the world. The year is 2016. Of course we're going to trade with the world. Of course we're in a global economy. The question is, how can we write the rules of the global economy in a way that is good for working people, good for good jobs? And I think, what's, I'd say, a more important economic priority right now is dealing with our relationship with China, because if you look at the U.S. trade deficit, almost 2/3 of our non-oil deficit in goods is with one country, with China. And so we're seeing an enormous lopsided and unfair trade relationship with that country. And I think that we could actually put that relationship on a different basis. We need to address currency manipulation. We need to address illegal subsidies. We need to address workers' rights and environmental and consumer safety issues with respect to our China trade relationship. We need a different trade policy. And some of the policies that the United States needs to change are domestic policies. They're not all with respect to trade. Like, we need a different tax code that doesn't incentivize and reward companies that take jobs overseas. We need maybe a different procurement policy that would focus on good jobs and labor standards and protecting workers who are producing for the U.S. government. I'm sorry that our government wasted 6 years negotiating the TPP, but that's not a good trade agreement, and it should go down to defeat. So I think that the TPP was a missed opportunity. Our government misjudged negotiating an agreement which is more about corporate power than it is about market opening. Well, of course, the AFL-CIO will work with whatever president is in the White House. We've worked with presidents we agree with, we've worked with presidents we don't agree with. We have to listen to this man, for a year. We've had to listen to his ignorant and offensive discussions. I think in terms of immigration, he has demonized immigrants. This is a country of immigrants, and yet he has played to the worst fears of Americans, and there are legitimate fears, and there are legitimate concerns, and the economy hasn't been good for working people in the United States for a couple of decades. We've seen really growing inequality, we've seen stagnation of wages. So what Donald Trump has done is he's taken advantage of a vulnerability.
Why vote Trump here in Michigan?
Why vote Trump in
Yes,
Michigan?
why vote Trump?
Why vote Trump? Because he knows about money.
Ah, okay.
He knows about money.
He's a businessman.
He's a businessman. He knows how to spend money. He knows how to cut. And he knows how to where to make cuts. He wants to bring God back into our country. And there's a lot of reasons why. The military, the strength, everything.
You usually vote Republican here?
You know what? I'm done with Republicans. I'm done with Democrats.